All right, well, good morning to each of you. We will begin. Dr. Davis, of course, will be here in just a few minutes. But until that time, I'd like to, one, say good morning to you, but two, thank you for your presence today. As you all have seen throughout the campus, the president is working on his 100 days. And at this point, we're at 100 days and counting. And what the 100 Days and Counting campaign, the 100 Days of Excellence, is an opportunity for the campus community to discuss with the president priorities for the institution. There are goals that have been set through the 100 Days of Excellence campaign that surround student engagement, that surround academic endeavors, faculty and staff, employee satisfaction. Your place is up here. Employee satisfaction, as well as community engagement, institutional endowment or advancement, and a plethora of other areas that impact the progression of the institution. I'm extremely proud to say that we are making strides. But the most important piece of the 100 Days of Excellence is the impact that you all bring to the conversation. This is the third of 4 of the 100 Days of Excellence discussions. The first session was from a select group of faculty and staff members who were asked to give candid conversation, candid dialogue about the status of the institution from their perspective and what priorities they believe were important as we move forward. The second session it involved student leaders, in which the student leaders gave the feedback related to their perspective on where we are as an institution and what they see we should be doing as we move forward. And this third session is just an open conversation for all of the college. We may have students, of course we have faculty, we have staff, we have administrators, because we wanted to get a collective discussion going on related to if we were, one, on pulse with where the institution should be going, but two, to give an opportunity for everyone to give feedback. And so this will be the last of the discussions. However, on December the 6th, we will have a culmination, a presentation of all things related to the 100 Days of Excellence, in which we will see the strides that we've made as an institution under President Davis's leadership, and we will have priorities on what work we should be focusing on as we progress toward the 100 Days and counting. So again, I appreciate your presence. I appreciate your presence, and I appreciate your openness. Again, this will be a discussion. I will be facilitating the conversation. So I will come to you as you bring questions forth. However, Dr. Davis will be able to share a few words as we begin, and we will begin the conversation. We do want to keep this within an hour. However, we do know that it may go a little bit beyond that, so if your time commitments do not allow for you to stay for the full hour or beyond, we completely understand, but we will not prolong the moment. We will turn it over to Dr. Davis for his introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Test 1, 2. How about that? That makes a difference. First of all, let me apologize for my tardiness. I was on the telephone with a donor, so I'm trying to sell LOC. So I feel like I'm in a bad episode of Matlock with Technicolor, with the lights down. I'm waiting on somebody to run up here and hit me with a phone book and say, "Tell the truth, where were you?" So but the truth of the matter is, certainly let me thank Dr. Dunross and all of the hard work that she has done in terms of setting these up and facilitating these. As she mentioned, I've really sort of viewed this as a listening tour. I do recognize that faculty, staff, students, alumni, trustees, they always expect the president to have an answer. As a matter of fact, I believe I get compensated to have answers. And the truth of the matter is, if you press me, I'll give you an answer. But I'm not always sure it's the best answer. And so before they start pressing me too tough for answers, I really wanted to be intentional about hearing all of the voices around campus so that as we offer an answer, I will be able to offer an answer prayerfully in line with what we're hoping for, what we're pushing toward, what we're believing God for as an institution. And so this is designed to really give me an opportunity to hear from you. I will say to you all the same thing I said in the previous sessions. I was raised by my grandparents, both of whom were hip shooters. Now, the reason I say that is because if you were raised by a hip shooter, you learn early on it does not serve you well to have thin skin. So I don't have thin skin. I can handle your truth, whatever that is. All I ask is that we be intentional about not allowing this time together to dovetail into a gripe session, because that's not the focus. I want to hear your concerns. I want to hear your questions. I want us to be able to work collectively and collaboratively to chart a course for the institution. And the only way to do so is for me to spend twice as much time listening as speaking. So if we can agree on that as a set of ground rules, I say let's go ahead and pull this train out of the station.
All right, thank you, Dr. Davis. And so as mentioned, I'll be facilitating the conversation, so I will also be taking notes. But we have several areas that we are wanting to get feedback on. And so I have those areas. They include staff relations and employee satisfaction.
Students, I think they want you.
I'm not the focus of the show. I'm just here to facilitate.
See, let the record reflect. I don't care what you say about technology, it will never replace a lead pencil and a legal pad.
Amen.
I know you don't like that, Miss Bailey, but that's just, it is what it is.
All right, so the areas that we will discuss today include staff relations and employee satisfaction, student engagement, operations and finance, academic endeavors, community engagement, wraparound support, performance and leadership development, public relations, athletic experiences, technology and infrastructure, and endowment and fundraising. Now, I do recognize that for some of you in here, some of these areas may not relate to you. But before we go into the specifics, we're going to open the conversation up for general discussion about where we see the institution at its present state. Now, of course, we know that Dr. Davis took leadership on July 1 or July 8th?
July 8th.
July 8th. And so, of course, from that time, he spent some intentional work with the Executive Council as well as various leadership entities to be sure that we're putting emphasis in certain areas. So we want to start with what your candid thoughts are on where we are as an institution. And we will open the floor up and I will come to you.
I see Dr. McDonald.
My name is Dr. McDonald. I want to, since being at LeMoyne-Owen as long as I have, and as much as I love LeMoyne-Owen College, and I've worked at other HBCUs, do we have, we look at our future as being strategic. In our enrollment management strategic plan, I think, just a recommendation, that the institution can be better served if we had a created committee called the Enrollment Management and Student Retention Committee. It was, I've been on those committees, powerful, because I don't think we should, as much as we have a very good enrollment management team, I don't think we should put all that weight on them. It's enrollment management is responsibility of the entire institution. So I think the entire institution needs to get involved to try to solve some of the issues or how we can improve our strategic plan, not to get into day-to-day business, but from a strategic plan, I think you get a lot of ideas from that. That's a recommendation.
No, I think Dr. McDonald, I think you're spot on. I think I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be a campus-wide effort, not only in terms of retention, but also in terms of recruitment. And of course, Dr. McDonald continues to use the word strategic. I think it's important that you all know that the last strategic plan that the institution adopted was Destination 2023. Of course, that was the strategic plan when Dr. Miller served as president. Of course, many of you all know I served on the board of trustees during that particular time. We have not adopted a new strategic plan. So, of course, whatever the destination was for 2023, whether we got there or not, 2023 has passed. The board is aware that we do not have a current strategic plan. That is a conversation that is ongoing. It is our hope, it's certainly my hope, that as quickly as early to mid-spring, that the board will go ahead and green light a collaborative partner for us to work with as we put in place a strategic plan for the institution. And of course, I think a part of that is going to make sure we're looking at how does the institution share in the lift versus a designated one or two people or the president's team or whatever the case may be. One of the things that I hear all the time about LeMoyne, even if individuals are raising questions about LeMoyne or taking me to task about LeMoyne, they always start with, at LeMoyne, we're family. I hear that from students, I hear that from alum, I hear that from staff, this idea of family. And if that is true, then what we have to do is be intentional about creating a culture that says, if we are indeed a family, then we share in the responsibility as a family to make sure that LeMoyne is her best self. So I certainly agree. Mr. Scott is behind you. Of course, that's his area, and I see he's taking notes as we speak. So
I have one more thing. As great as LeMoyne-Owen is to us, we need to make it aware to the rest of the world. So I don't know how, I know it's a challenge for you, but maybe, I don't know if you can get it accomplished short term, but long term maybe we need to create some type of budget for advertising where we can advertise to markets, not just local markets, but markets outside of Memphis, Tennessee, that make people, I think if more people knew about LeMoyne-Owen College, like all those wonderful videos that I see in the hallways, I think the world needs to see that, and we need to just, I don't know, we may not have the money for advertising, but some kind of way we got to find some money for advertising. It will help us out tremendously.
I agree, and as a matter of fact, many of you all know that we brought in a third party to help us with our marketing. We are gaining some traction. Of course, many of you all know we've done billboards, we've done radio spots. We've entered into a partnership with the city. We're still working through the details with Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. Of course, as you see in many institutions across the city where they've got the banners on the light poles as you're leading to the institution. So we've got all of those things underway. In terms of our activities, folks, homecoming and so forth, we've hit HBCU buzz now I think 4 times this semester, which is a big deal because of course they cover all HBCU activities. But now let me say this, of course there is always a B-side to every record, and while we want broad exposure, we want folks to be aware of the institution, I think there is something to be said about starting in Judea and then spreading to the uttermost part of the world. By that, what I mean is we still have people in Memphis who don't know who we are and where we are. So I think the first thing, and I say that with a great degree of intentionality, because of course we do know marketing and advertising is about not only exposing our institution to potential donors, but it's also about driving enrollment numbers in terms of recruiting students. Well, here's the reality. We live in the city with the 23rd largest school district in the nation. If we never got a student from outside of Memphis, if we were able to just tap into Memphis, we would never have an enrollment issue. So I don't really think it is to our advantage, number one, to spend a great deal of energy and effort in terms of making sure we're known outside of Memphis until we first have a better reputation, a better narrative in Memphis. The other thing that I want to caution us about is when people start to hear our name and look into us, when they hear about us and all of that kind of good stuff, then we have to be mindful of what they're going to see. And right now, you all, as an institution, we have to address our retention rate, our graduation rate. And so, so we have to be mindful that when you invite people to look in your house, you have to be mindful of what they're going to see. So I think we've got some internal work to do before we start saying to folks, take a look at us. Because unfortunately, right now, when you Google LeMoyne, there are some good things that are going to pop up. So we've had some positive things that happen that we're excited about. But you know and I know if they keep digging and if they keep looking, they're going to stumble up on some stuff that does not serve us well. And as much as we may not like it, we have to own the fact as an institution, it's true. So now we have to do the hard work of sort of changing that narrative. And that simply comes down to data. I mean, we've got to graduate our students. We've got to increase our graduation rate. Those students that we've convinced to come here, we've got to do a better job of holding on to them in terms of our retention rate. I mean, we've got to address those areas that drive the data so that when they do discover us, they say, oh, wow, we didn't know they had all of that going on at LeMoyne.
Or at least my feedback was actually going to be on the very same thing. I think that for one, if you think about the time frame that you have been in office, it's less than 6 months. Mm-hmm. I am a newer employee to LeMoyne. I've been here almost 2 years this month. But there is a significant difference in change since the day that I walked in to now, and I think that needs to be widespread. And to that, to this effect, I think that if we could share with our internal family what's happening, what are the wins from each department, from students, and really champion that, I think that gives us some talking points. So I would just love to see almost and be inundated with, this is the good that's happening at LeMoyne, because I think that it might be the position or the department that I'm in, we are over inundated in IT with the bad that's happening, the systems that don't work, the network that whatever. But I would love to just hear, hey, there were 200, students represented for STEAM. I would love for us to let everybody know, hey, one of our cybersecurity students took 3rd place at the hackathon. I will, because these are things that I follow, on social media. I actually have on my Google alerts, when does LeMoyne-Owen come up? That way, I always have a talking point, whether it's with people at church, students that come into our office. No, we're doing a lot of good. So I would love, even from your office, Howard's president, he sends me something every day. I know everything that happened. If the basketball team won last night, they're going to send me an email. If they lost, he's going to say, they lost, and here's a link to donate so that they can practice. They send us something every day. Okay. And that allows us, as an alumni club, it allows us to have that internal conversation with our members. Hey, this is what's going on in the institution. These are the challenges they're having. How can we rally around it? So I think that if we could really share really just what's happening in real time with internal stakeholders and with alumni, I think that it will go a long ways away. And I think that that's different than, of course, what some of the other asks are if we could do some advertising media. So that was just my thought, because I do want to applaud. I think that I had an opportunity to hear you speak on Sunday. I was like, where are the LeMoyne people? This is amazing. But I just don't know that people knew that experience was happening. So
I think thank you for that, and I think you're absolutely right. I think we have started to do some of that, but I think you're right when you say we should do more of that, and we can do more of that. And I want to go back to something that Dr. McDonald said earlier in terms of, even as we seek to do more of that, what I want us to be mindful of as an institution is that we can't drop that solely in the lap of Dr. Dunn Ross as COO, or drop that solely in the lap of KQ or communications. The truth of the matter is all of us have our networks in terms of social media and so forth. So we have to be intentional about driving that. I'll pick on Dr. Gackey because I know Pete doesn't mind. As a matter of fact, I always get a kick out of it. I said, I learned more stuff about LeMoyne-Owen College by following Pete Gackey on social media than I know from simply being the president. And by that, what I mean is, it's always these little interesting tidbits of history that he always sort of shares about the institution. And while I'm not saying that you have to be an undercover historian, I am saying the things that you discover that excite you, we have to be intentional about sort of pushing those things out. And Brittany's absolutely right in terms of sharing the good stuff that's going on. I trust that we're being candid and transparent and so forth so we can get to a good place, because you need to hear me say, even at the risk of somebody throwing tomatoes at me, you need to hear me say this to you. Our greatest challenge as an institution in terms of publicity and press are not from those from the outside who are trying to figure out who we are. Our greatest challenges are internal. You'll say the stuff that we have to combat that gets out there in the general public, that doesn't come from outsiders. That comes from within the institution. You'll say members of the LOC family. And when I say the family, I'm talking about students, faculty, staff, alum, members of the family. You'll say who in that moment, whatever they're upset about, who give no real thought to what this will mean for the institution. Because see, like any other family, after a few days or so, you're gonna calm down, you're gonna get over it, and things are gonna go back to normal. But what doesn't change is what you put out there when you were upset. Now we've got to put some energy into walking that down and walking that back. So I say that to say that as we move the institution forward, because you all will have conversations with members of the family that I'll never have a conversation with. And so for those of us that are rooting for LeMoyne, who believe in LeMoyne, who wants to see LeMoyne win, you have to take on some of the responsibility to sort of say to them, that doesn't help us. I understand you're upset. That's a legitimate concern, but that does not help us. Parroting that to the general public, that doesn't help us.
And if I can add to that, I think that's a great point, Ms. Wash, about telling our story. And this is why we're here today. As we've been preparing this 100 Days of Excellence, one of the things that we've done is actually just had the EC to bring in or let us know all of the things that they're doing at the institution. And I had to call one of the VPs and was like, wow, we are doing exactly what we set out to do when it comes to this particular area. And it's exciting to see it on paper, because sometimes, we're all guilty of going through the motion and just continuing to put out fires and so forth. But very rarely do we sit back and smell the roses of the good work that's being done. And so to the point, this is one piece of telling the narrative. Of course, I'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of our time together. But again, well received, well heard. The Locked In that gets sent out on every first and third Friday is also a response to wanting to tell the good news about what our institution is doing. And so we want to improve on that work. I strongly encourage you, when you have students who are doing great things, send it to the communications@loc.edu, because we want to highlight that information. The Locked In goes out to students, it goes out to employees, it goes out to trustees, and we're also working for it to go toward alum as well.
If I could say something right there, and in fact, you all, I've been kicking it around in my head, and the truth of the matter is, I've been meaning to get to it. I just hadn't gotten to it. But of course, this conversation will force me to prioritize it. In fact, I have a dear friend of mine, of course, who's a supporter of LeMoyne, who actually served on a previous search committee, Johnny Pitts. And before the pandemic, Johnny would have a gathering of men once a month for just a prayer breakfast, a gathering, just sort of discipling men. And he would always have this thing that he called Pitt's Three-peat. Three things going on in the city of Memphis that you need to be repeating. And every month when we would meet, he would give us three things that are happening in the city of Memphis that we should be talking about. And I was always amazed because, again, I watch the news, I read the paper, and I was always shocked that at least two of the things that he would put up there, I would lead the meeting saying, I didn't know that. I did not know we had this going on in Memphis. And the funny part is I've been saying for months now, I need to do something like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm going to call it, but something that comes out from the president. Here are three things going on with LeMoyne-Owen that you need to be talking about, that you should be telling folks about it. So in addition to the locked in, I'm just going to commit to finding the time to do that. So having said that, listen, of course, if there is something exciting going on in your area, listen, send me an email and say this should be one of the things included in what you send out, people should be talking about. So as a matter of fact, my goal is to start in December. I'm going to start in December. I don't know if it's going to be weekly, monthly, what it's going to look like, but we're going to start pushing it out from my office, so I'll keep you posted.
All right, so we're going to focus the conversation on very specific areas. And so the first, of course, will be academic endeavors. We have about 30 more minutes together, and so I want us to be very intentional about speaking to the focus areas that are outlined within the 100 Days of Excellence. Academic endeavors, of course, is one of those areas. Just as you, of course, thank you, IT, for setting up our mic stand here. So as I read through some of the things that's going on, again, telling our narrative, we want you to give feedback on the good, the bad, the ugly, but also where we should be moving forward. So again, academic endeavors. Of course, we've been recognized as a leader for Fulbright scholars. We have an MOU formulated with the University of Memphis for their physical therapy program. We have the inception, of course, of the Religious Studies program, Corners to College, LOC, Esports, Gaming Association, and of course, we've been recognized by the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs as a Fulbright HBCU institutional leader. This, of course, is just some of the things that are going on here at the institution that has happened within the last 100 days. And so want to focus our minds on academic endeavors and get feedback on where we stand as an institution and, of course, where we should be going as an institution from your perspective.
I will put this out there as a means of sort of starting the conversation. I do know historically LeMoyne-Owen has been known for our teacher program in terms of the teachers that we put in there. Of course, we do know prior to African-American students being able to attend the University of Memphis, if someone who looked like us taught in Memphis City and in Shelby County schools, the overwhelming majority of them had been trained and prepared at LeMoyne-Owen College. Now, we certainly have no intentions of abandoning that. We're excited about the relationship we are forging with Memphis Shelby County schools in terms of looking at what their deficiencies are, in terms of where there's some areas within our curriculum that we need to strengthen in order to help our graduates prove to be more effective in the classroom. But I think what I want to challenge us around, even beyond sort of this teacher education, if we look at sort of the big picture of LeMoyne-Owen, even beyond teacher education, I think the real brilliance of LeMoyne historically has been there is not an organization in this city that should claim more credit for moving people of color in this city to middle class than LeMoyne-Owen College. And so as we talk about, as the city talks about, closing the wealth gap, I think we as an institution have to begin to think through how do we position ourselves as an institution to be an economic locomotion, if you will, to help move another generation of people into middle class and beyond. I contend the way we do that is we have to make sure that we have a curriculum that is responsive to, beginning with, industry in this city. So when we look at Memphis and Shelby County, what are the needs? Well, we say supply chain and logistics, but you'll say, but have we really positioned ourselves to really do significant work in that particular area? We're already talking about teacher education. We know public service is a big deal in this city. Where we've not stuck our foot, and one of the conversations that we're having is one of the major industries in this city is healthcare. So you'll say, so what role is there for LeMoyne to play in that? Is that public health? Is that nursing? I mean, what is that? Because what we do know is, just like there is a tremendous need for school teachers in this city, right now, heaven forbid, what I do know, and this comes directly from Jason Little at Baptist, it comes from Michael Ugwiki at Methodist, it comes from St. Francis. If we were to experience another epidemic or pandemic like we experienced just a few years ago, we do not have the nurses and the doctors in this city to respond. There is a huge need. If ever there was a time that we need to be thinking strategically around how we put our foot in that water, that time is now. So one of the things I want us to be thinking about as an institution is, how do we actively engage ourselves in raising the middle class and closing the wealth gap? In terms of what do we need to be teaching, what do we need to be offering in terms of our students being able to contribute? Because I don't mind telling you, as a matter of fact, Dr. Dunn Ross was with me. In fact, we were looking at a project, and I had a donor to say to me, he says, Dr. Davis, you need another $2 million to pull off this project that you're working on. He says, I can say to you, here's what's interesting, I can take you to a donor, and I'm almost 100% certain that the donor will give you the $2 million to finish this project. He says, what are your thoughts to that? And I said to him, my immediate thought is, what do you want? You're not offering to do something if you don't get something out of it. What is it that you want? And here's what he said to me. He said, I'll tell you what I want. He said, I want your full-throated support. Not only your public support, but I want your support as an institution, as LeMoyne-Owen, that you're going to throw all of your weight behind helping to create more black doctors in the city of Memphis. He says, we've got to have more black doctors in the city of Memphis. And if you will commit as an institution to really throwing your weight behind making that happen, I'll take you to the donor who will give you the $2 million that you need to pull off that other project. Now, the only reason I'm telling you that is because there are entities in the city who recognize that we are poised and positioned to play a significant role in filling certain gaps within this city. And from a curricular standpoint, we need to be thinking about what does that look like and how do we position ourselves to do that. Because, of course, I'm sure Dr. Dennis already knows this. Last commencement, this past May, do you know how many graduates from the University of Memphis education program are teaching in Memphis Shelby County School? How many teachers that Memphis Shelby County School got from the University of Memphis this past May? Let me tell you, three. 1, 2, 3. University of Memphis had 3 graduates that are teaching school now in Memphis. That's why the superintendent is going to Birmingham and everywhere else. I saw her just a couple of days ago, and she says to me, Dr. Davis, what can we do at Memphis Shelby County Schools to help get LeMoyne where it needs to be? We gotta have teachers. So, healthcare industry is saying to us, LeMoyne has to help us. We need more black doctors. Memphis Shelby County Schools is saying to us, you gotta help us. We gotta have more teachers. People are begging for our help. We've just gotta position ourselves from a curricular standpoint to be able to respond. And before Brittany and Ms. Bailey send me a text message, yes, I'm aware that Memphis has more black women in tech than any other city in this country. So we've got to continue to do that work as well. Amen.
So I do think that we have, if you can come to the mic, any questions related to academic endeavors, and then of course we'll move to our other areas.
So in the midst of that, Dr. Davis, I want, as the chair of the Fine Arts and Humanities Division, I want to underline something that hasn't been mentioned, but that Memphis is known for, and that LeMoyne-Owen has been a contributor and may be able to contribute more in the future. And we're talking about curriculum, and that's the area of music and the arts more generally, including theater. So I'd hope as we think about the overall curriculum and how we can prepare students for excellence in the broader community and moving up, that we don't forget the arts. In particular, the strength of music. We're in this neighborhood that is at the very heart of the music phenomena of the city of Memphis. And we need to take advantage of that in terms of recruitment of students and supporting the arts program.
Dr. Geck, I'm glad you pointed that out. You're absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, and I say this sort of tongue in cheek, but there's a tinge of truth to it. We're running the risk of getting our HBCU card taken. Now, one of the things that we do in our community, we often joke about folks taking your black card. We're about to mess around and lose our HBCU card because, I mean, how do you identify yourself as an HBCU? You have no band, you have no choir, you have no football team. I think AD was going to say that, but the truth of the matter is, we have to be able to, because that is a part of HBCU culture in terms of, a band, in terms of athletics, football, a robust music department. So you're absolutely right. We've got some work to do. We've got some lifting to do. And band and choir are easier than football. Don't tell the AD I told you.
Last comments related to academic endeavors before we move forward.
I don't want to say it's a concern, but something that I think would help us, and I don't know how it is on the academic side, but with our students who are taking freshman seminar, in my class right now for my master's class, we are having to figure out what generations need. And when going through that project, I was thinking, well, if we brought this to LeMoyne-Owen College and in our freshman seminar classes, they're actually having development each week. So first week, we're learning the history of LeMoyne-Owen College. Second week, I'm going to teach you how to dress. Third week, I'm doing this so we can prepare our students to be active leaders on campus and in turn active leaders in the city of Memphis, because it's no secret. We know that some of our students aren't up to par in dressing or public speaking, but if we're doing that at the freshman seminar level, then they're developed, through the rest of their 3 years here at LeMoyne-Owen College, and in turn, we'll see our students producing much more better because we are helping them to strive for better.
Thank you for that. I certainly agree. I think where the conversation has to begin is we have to decide as an institution, what do we want for our students? What kind of graduates we want to produce? What kind of citizens we want them to be? And I'm not just talking about in terms of passing conversation. I mean, we have to have some hard conversations in terms of what's going to be our claim to fame. What are we going to do better than anyone else? You know what I'm saying? What's going to be distinctive about a magician, about a LeMoyne-Owen graduate? And then from a curricular standpoint, we've got to reiterate that and reinforce that through the curriculum. I don't mind telling you, one of my concerns right now at LeMoyne is the public presentation of our students. In terms of, that's both skill and confidence that we've got to nurture and develop in our students. And I believe in that to the degree that I've said to Dr. Lang, I said, I don't know what it's going to take. I said, but I need the faculty of LeMoyne to commit to a public speaking component in every single class. I don't care what class it is, even if it's math. I want them to, to offer some public presentation on how you solve a problem, because the only way for our students to get better, the only way for them to get comfortable is for them to do it. And having a one semester mandatory public speaking class will not get us there. Because here's the thing that we have to be mindful of, you all. Right now, as the president stands, Memphis-Shelby County School is not helping us. They are not. They are not carrying their share of the weight. That just is what it is. So since we already know that, we have to be prepared to make up for what they didn't do at Memphis-Shelby County Schools and then carry it forward. That's just the reality. Until they can figure out what they've got to do on their end, once they become ours, they're ours. I don't get the luxury as president to talk about what the previous administration did or did not do. Or that wasn't my fault. That happened before I got there. The board made it clear to me on July 8th when I signed my contract, you now, sir, are the president. And you, and everything that comes along with it is your responsibility. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We will have no conversation about the previous administration. I smile and say, no big deal. So wherever we are, regardless to what the genesis was, it's not my issue because I sit in the president's seat. That has to be our attitude as an institution about our students. I don't care what Memphis-Shelby County Schools didn't do, or how they didn't prepare them, or how they failed them. When you make the decision, when we make the decision to admit them and call them magicians, it becomes our responsibility. And so now, it does not change what we want for our students, but it might change our pedagogy, our approach, our curriculum, our learning outcomes for this particular course. All of that now has to be a conversation.
Thank you for your feedback related to academic endeavors. The next area that we will discuss is student engagement. And again, as we speak to these things related to student engagement, I do ask that any questions or comments that you have that you move toward the mic. Student engagement, of course, the goal was to enhance student experience, involvement, and satisfaction. Some things that have occurred over the past 100 days include the revitalized student center spaces, information technologies, esports gaming lab for the esports competitions, the inception of Walker's Point Honors Living Learning Community, the adoption of admissions pros to enhance the student recruitment experience digitally, a digital housing application through admissions pros that is forthcoming, and the inception of intramural sports for spring of 2025. If you would, please state your name and, of course, your question.
Hey, how y'all doing, everybody? My name is Tomanisha Jones. I'm currently a sophomore here, but
Where you from, Dominisha?
I'm from Memphis,
Memphis,
but I
okay.
was raised in Louisiana, so.
What part?
Belle Chase.
Okay.
Yeah, Belle Chase. Shout out to y'all. So for one thing that I do need to say about housing, we do need to update housing and how it is in there because some of them rooms be, a little nasty, and y'all need to fix that. We're talking. But anyways, I do have some other things that we do need to do for students.
Okay.
For our internships, why can't we have like the freshmen do internships and then go into like actually taking it as some training for what they want to do in their career? Like, why can't we do that? And then for transportation for the students who don't stay on campus and that want to attend here, how are we going to help those students who can come to class every day on time, my bad. But, like, that's what I was trying to say. And then for freshmen, as another thing for the freshmen, I think we should have them join organizations early on so they'll have something under their belt as something they want to do, for them. And it'll also empower us as people and inspire others, like training to go tutor students or to do something in the community, like cleaning up Memphis. We could do something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate, all of your comments. I think what I appreciate most around your comments is when you said, we ought to make freshmen be involved in organizations and so forth. If you stick around me long enough, one of the things that you will discover is one of my soapboxes is that LeMoyne is a private institution. And as a private institution, we get to say what we require of our students. That's what I was referring to earlier when I was talking about in terms of the curriculum. When we want particular outcomes that we need to program to those outcomes, I like that word make in terms of we ought to make them do. I like that. And so when it comes up, when they say, well, you can't make them do that, I'm saying, Tom, you should say it. I should make y'all do. But in terms of the dorms, we recognize that we've got some challenges to work through with the dorms. We're working. Do you live in the dorms now? Were they not in better shape when you came back this fall than they were last fall? Okay, well, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. But of course, we're working on it. Everything that you mentioned, we're working on it. But the reality is, when you've got a dorm the size of Patton Hall, and you've got 300 students in there, that's a whole lot of upkeep for a relatively small staff. And the other thing we got to do, Tom, you got to, and I need you to hear this as a student, so when it comes up, you'll be on my side. In order for us to maintain the dorms, clean the dorms, fix the dorms, we have to have some time when the dorms are empty. And when we say something about closing down the dorms, we set off World War III around here. And a lot of that comes from the fact, unfortunately, where LeMoyne is located. See, in an ideal world, here's what I would want for you. I would want you to be able to live in a dorm as a freshman, as a sophomore, so we could engage in formation, in mentoring, and all that good stuff. And by the time you get to be a junior, I'd like to see you move out of the dorm, get your first apartment, maybe 2 roommates, 3, so you can learn the responsibility of paying your rent, your utility bills, and all of that kind of good stuff, where you get a chance to sort of, be grown with a safety net still in place. But because of where we're located right now, those type of developments don't necessarily exist. So we have students at LeMoyne who move in as freshmen and don't leave until graduation. And then we have to convince them, this is not your apartment. This is the dorm of LeMoyne-Owen College. So we've got to figure out how to move through that particular challenge so we can address some of those concerns in housing. But we're working on it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanteria Smith, and I am a junior here at LeMoyne-Owen College.
Where you from?
I'm from Chicago.
Chi-Town, okay.
So my accent might be a little bit, but I am trying to slow some of my words down because I know a lot of people can't hear me or understand what I'm saying.
I like people who talk fast. Makes me feel at home.
So my concern.
What's your major, Shanteria?
I'm a biology major.
Biology major. Oh, you
STEM,
smart.
We all in the house. So my concern is that, is there a way that we can separate the students who live on dorms who have vehicles and the students who live off dorms who have vehicles? Because we have some dorm students driving their vehicles from the dorms and parking over here at our main parking spot for everybody else, and which for me, I don't live on dorms. So sometimes when I come to my class that I might not have until 12:30 or 12:45, there's nowhere for me to park.
Interesting.
So then, of course, we do have security on campus. They do enforce us that we cannot park much closer, even though there's parking spots open. But we can't park there because that's for the teachers and the staffs, in which us students, we understand that perfectly fine, but there's no reason why a dorm student should be able to drive their vehicle from the dorms and park over here if we can't park there.
Makes perfect. This is the first time I've ever heard that. This is the first time I've ever heard that. So thank you for sharing that. I got a feeling that's an easy fix. We can fix that with parking decals. That's an easy fix.
Two different colors, just so you can, so that
we can
the
fix that.
security staff can actually know, like, hey, these are here our dorm students. These are here your college students who do not live on campus. That gives us, for when we do have events here, and we do have an abundance of parking going on because we have outside people coming in, it's still room for them to park as well versus us parking all up on the grass. Then you have some of us that's parked up here by the bus. Where are your students?
Makes sense. Can I ask you another question since you're up here? Tell me what the experience is like for you as a commuter student. The reason I ask that question is because as we look at it, it would appear to me that much of what we do is geared toward residential students when half of our student population are commuters. So tell me what your experience is like as a commuter student at LeMoyne, in terms of everything from space, in terms of space to identify while you're waiting on another class,
That's where I was getting to next.
lunch, or eating on campus. What's that like for you as a commuter?
So for me, myself, it is a little hard for us to be able to pay for lunch, breakfast, and sometimes our classes do linger on to where we're here for dinner. And not at all times by us being full-time students and plus trying to keep a job, that where we actually have money to be able to buy a snack or pay for stuff down here in the bookstore just so we can make it through a day. I've seen some students not eat completely due to the fact that I don't have the money to pay for the calf right now.
Okay.
And when it comes down to us having a 2 or 3 hour gap, there is no place for us to actually take that mental break unless it's in a game room where we're taking a nap, or it's out in the community area where you're able to say, like, why the baby sleeping over here?
Okay.
And it's because we are trying to balance a full-time school life and a full-time job. And some of us have kids. Some of us who don't have kids, they still help out with their parents, with other siblings they have behind them to show them, like, hey, I know it's hard for mom or dad right now, but a way to help out is to go to school. This is the school I'm going to. This is what they're offering me here. This is like to help give that initiative for younger generations behind them.
Thank you for sharing that. That's helpful. One of the and I want you to hear me say, one of the conversations that we had, and one of the things that we put some real behind is improving the experience for our students in terms of space where you can, catch your breath and rest in between class and so forth, and some options to be able to grab a sandwich or a snack that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg while you're waiting on campus to grab. Thank you for sharing that, and I do want you to know that we're going to address that. We're going to address that.
My question is quick. It's about student engagement. You talked about us being a private institution and what we can require. Why do we require students to go to chapel?
Okay. Why do we require students to go to chapel? I think the first thing you need to hear me say is that chapel should not be understood as substitute church. So in my mind, in my thinking, the purpose of chapel is to expose our students, to broaden their perspective. In a perfect world, I don't just want the chaplain to do chapel every week. I want different voices to come in, sharing thoughts, ideas that are pertinent to the whole person. A part of the reason that I'm a big proponent of chapel is because LeMoyne-Owen is a liberal arts institution, and when we look at the promise of a liberal arts institution, chapel is a critical part of that in terms of discussions and lectures and panels, and of course we're growing to that particular place. That's the reason chapel for me is a critical component of their journey at LeMoyne-Owen College. And the reason, for me at this point, it is a non-negotiable. In fact, what's that thing we got where they're going to start being able to check in? What's it called, Scott? Presence. To the point where we want them to check in for chapel, because if we really believe that hearing different voices, hearing different thoughts, being stretched, being challenged is a necessary part of educational formation, and we really believe that, then we don't struggle with making it mandatory. I'll say this and then I'll move on. I really don't want the students at LeMoyne to make the same mistake I made as an undergraduate student. My work study job was working in the Black Student Association office for Dr. Lonnie Williams. Lonnie Williams says to me one day, he says, Davis, I need for you to go to the airport, pick up the lecturer, take him to lunch, then get him to the hotel and get him squared away. I'll pick him up this evening for the lecture. I said, I don't want to be bothered with him. He said, I didn't ask you if you want to be bothered. This is your job. This is what you get paid to do. You will pick him up at the airport. You will take him to lunch. Then you will take him to the hotel. Do you understand? I said, yes, sir, Dr. Williams. So needless to say, I had a stank attitude about it. I went to the airport. I picked him up. I mean, I wasn't ugly, but I was not my normal gregarious self. And so, I picked him up. I put his bags in the car. He was working hard to make some conversation with me, but I just wasn't going. I took him to lunch. If he asked me a question, I answered, but I didn't volunteer any information beyond that. Finally, he recognized I really didn't want to be bothered. I went into him. He said, I'm sure you got some other things you need to do. Just go ahead and drop me off at the hotel. I dropped him off at the hotel. No big deal. I didn't even go to the lecture that night. It would be some years later before it registered with me who he was. It was Samuel DeWitt Proctor. And so I say to myself all the time, I had Sam Proctor to myself. I could have picked his brain. I could have had intriguing conversation. And now, and of course, I've read every book that Sam Proctor wrote. Even from his time being president of Virginia Union, being president at Rutgers, being the president of the Peace Corps. I mean, he has lived a phenomenal life. And I say to myself, dummy, you had him to yourself. But in my youthfulness, I didn't recognize who he was, and I didn't take advantage of that. I don't want a student from LeMoyne to have an opportunity to hear someone who could say something that could probably literally change their life, and they miss out on that opportunity. So until they mature to a place where they recognize it as an opportunity, I'm going to help them understand it as an opportunity. So that's my hard position on the significance of chapel. And the reason I say my hard position, I don't see it shifting anytime soon.
So as I recognize that we're at the hour, we will not be able to go through all of our goals, but there is one particular one that I think is extremely necessary for this discussion, and that is staff relations and employee satisfaction. Again, as we focused a lot of our conversation today on academic endeavors, on student engagement, staff relations and employee satisfaction has always been a priority for the institution as well. And of course, the goals that are set around that area include foster a culture of appreciation, communication, and professional growth for staff and faculty. As I read through a couple of things that we've done over the past 100 days, if you have any comments, responses, thoughts as we kind of, again, work toward this progression space, please come to the mic. Some things that have been done related to this goal, of course, is the harassment and bullying training for all employees in the employee spotlight corner on social media and on the ADP website. The Memphis Redbirds outing with faculty and staff, in which faculty and staff were able to attend for free for HBCU night, the health and wellness fair, the benefits survey for all employees, the coffee, cupcakes, and conversations, and then something that we'll be seeing in the spring is the LOC and Methodist Clinic's expansion of services to employees that will be on site. So if there are any comments related to this particular area, any thoughts that you want to share in terms of what we're doing in terms of progressing in that area, please feel free to share.
I would like to see infusion of HR into the daily activities of the faculty and staff. One of the things that I've noticed is that we're asking and requiring faculty and staff to be involved in what the students are doing, and I think that all of faculty and staff, that should include everyone. And then I would also like to say a lot of those events that you mentioned are pressed against other events that support our students, and as a staff member, it is hard for me to work, support our students, and the events at the same time. So I really need us to do a better job of that and utilize our faculty and staff institutes and things of that nature in the summertime a little bit better. So a good example of that is running back and forth between the STEAM conference and the cupcakes and that. So I want to be involved in everything. I want to know what's going on. I want to do all the trainings, but it's just hard to support the students and ourselves at the same time. And I feel like, I feel a little stretched of not being encompassed, by HR because they're just not there at the events that we do. So that's just my part. And again, love HR.
Well, I think you make a valid point. One of the things that we're doing, one of the things we've committed to as an institution to address that is we're building out a master calendar so that we can be abreast of all activities across the campus. Now, of course, invariably, there will always be multiple things that are going on, but certainly being a bit more intentional about where certain HR activities and so forth are placed so that we can increase the number of faculty members, staff members, and so forth who will be able to participate so there won't be conflict. I'm not sure how to infuse HR more in terms of what goes on, but if you've got some thoughts or some ideas, by all means, send me an email. Feel free to send Amy an email because, of course, we're always open and receptive to whatever we can do to sort of improve that.
I think a good place is to just make the requirements go across the board. So, there are just some people that are more behind the scene, whether it's facilities, HR, but I know IT, we go to every event. I've even, Tamanisha, Caitlin, Mariah, these are students that work in our department, that volunteer for our department, that I've said, hey, we're going to 100 days as an event, so that when you see us, when you see IT, you see all of us. So I would love to have that same, push for every entity because we're supporting other events. So everybody support every event. That was what you said in the convocation is we support our own. So
That's right.
It needs to go across students with staff, and in order to be a family, it can't be that you throw an event and I come to yours, but you don't come to my birthday party. So I'm going
No,
to mine.
I think you're spot on. And what I won't do is pretend like you're missing the mark with your statement. And I don't mind telling you that I've had that conversation with our EC in terms of their various areas, in terms of they need to do a better job of sort of encouraging, inspiring, making those persons who are direct reports to them, they need a much more pronounced presence across the campus. I agree with you. I certainly agree with you.
Sorry, my name is Kimberly Thunderbird, Dean of Enrollment. Mine is more of a kudos I want to give to the president and to Dr. Dunn Ross. My analogies have been campus beautification. I just want to say Greek Row has been a tremendous addition to our campus. It's more visible, it's more talked about, the students are more engaged, and also the student center. The wall wraps, the murals, everything, it's amazing. And I say that because the admissions team, we go out in the community and we talk so highly of LeMoyne-Owen College. So when they come here, they see the campus beautification. So it's like, wow, this is what they said it would be. So just kudos to both of you all for that. And then I also want to give kudos. I've been making my rounds to the division chairs, talking to them about the quality of students that we're bringing to LeMoyne-Owen College. So what I've been hearing from the division chairs, including Dr. Gecky, if he's still here, one of the things that they're saying is not the quality of students that we're bringing in, it's their lack of preparedness for college. So it also, and Dr. Davis, you've already touched on it, for freshman and sophomore, help me out here, but seminars.
Right.
So when they come in, if we could offer more classes or something that we could prepare our students for college, and they say it's a lack of motivation. Coming to class on time, just coming to class and being prepared once they come to class. And also another thing that was brought up was if we could have books, do something to have books in a timely manner. And then also I wanted to give kudos to Dr. John Ross again for yesterday, the meeting that we had with KQ. So we were told that we can move forward, the admissions team, with having a Facebook page, social media presence. And we are so appreciative because it gives us a voice. It gives us a platform. So I've been here a year. So the first year was basically a compromise of putting out fires and learning my job and learning the team and learning about the campus and how policies and procedures and things work. So now I'm more focused on the enrollment process and the strategic planning and what we need to do to grow the enrollment and bring in more quality students. So that's why I've been visiting the division chairs to find out what can we do to bring in a better quality of student. So again, their main purpose was just making sure the students are prepared on the front end, tell them what it takes to be a successful college student so that they can graduate in 4 years, so that we can increase our graduation rates. So, and graduation was amazing, by the way. But I just wanted this to be like just more of a appreciative moment to say that we are seeing changes being made. I don't know if it's something in the air, but it's like LeMoyne-Owen College, we're getting where we want to be, the source of Black excellence. We are an HBCU. We're proud to say we're the only HBCU in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Davis, the things that you promised us that you would do, those things are actually happening. So it makes me proud to say I'm a LeMoyne-Owen graduate and I work at LeMoyne-Owen College. So just kudos to you all and just thank you. Yeah.
Thank you,
and
Dee.
thank you for giving us a voice and a platform because we felt like we weren't heard, but now we feel like we can celebrate those small successes. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean Dunthberg. I only want to respond to one thing that she said, and it's important that all of you hear it because I'd heard the same narrative. I want to speak specifically about them books and those books being on time. I had a student to reach out to me not long ago, and he essentially said to me, Mr. President, I want a refund. The semester's almost over. I didn't get my books and so forth. Now, you already know I was 38 hot. So I marched across campus, came to the bookstore. I was about to get them straight for my students. But something said, they'll go in there running off at the mouth. Just go in there asking questions. And I'm so glad I asked the questions. Now, let me tell you all this, because I didn't know it, and you may not know it. Let me tell you how it works. When the professors upload the classes into the system, now we're having some system challenges right now that are not on LeMoyne, those on Barnes & Noble, just so you'll know. When it uploads into the system, a student goes in to register for class. The books they need for that class, all they do is click a button. When the button is clicked, Barnes & Noble is then notified that this student needs this particular book. Now here's what happens. If 20 students register for the class, Barnes & Noble may order 22 books, just a couple of extra. If all of a sudden we have a plethora of students join, now it's up to 30, we're going to have some shortages. But that's not the part that concerns me. Once those students have done that, they package those books in a box. They write their name on the box and then send them an email and say, your books are ready for pickup. If the students don't go get their books, those books are then unpacked and shipped back to the warehouse because we've only got so much storage. The reason I'm telling you that is because the student who sent me the email, Barnes & Noble pulled up and said, this is when she went into the portal. She clicked on this day. The books arrived this day. Here's the email we sent her telling her that her books were ready for pickup. And here is the day we shipped the books back after midterm because she never came. I emailed the student to tell the student what I discovered. I'm still waiting on a response. So the point I'm making is before we say, what's not happening in terms of the bookstore, we have to, let's do due diligence and sort of look into it because, and while I'm not doing a Barnes & Noble commercial, you all, but they run bookstores all across this country at colleges, institutions that are 3 or 4 times the size of ours. And you can't make me believe they can run that many bookstores and can't run a bookstore at LeMoyne-Owen College. A part of helping our students is holding them accountable. because even the young lady in question, when she said she didn't get her books, one of the books was an e-book. So you could tell me you didn't get your bound book, but how didn't you get your e-book?
Mr. President, a big problem is with the e-books. Yes, it is.
No, I'm not saying that they're not able, right. But what I want us to be careful about is, in this particular case, the e-book was available. And having been a student, you know what I'm saying, once upon a time myself, it doesn't take a whole lot for one or two students to have a challenge, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and it appears to be a much greater challenge than what it is. The bottom line is, she had no intention of getting her books. She wanted the money. But what she didn't bank on was the president hiking across campus to go see what was going on. So I'm not saying we shouldn't listen to our students. What I am saying is, before we burn the whole campus down, let's at least do some due diligence and look into it. And I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna be there. Help our students to understand, we are not going to send an email to your Yahoo, your Hotmail, your Gmail, or your AOL. We send emails to @loc.edu. And if you don't check your emails, which becomes our primary mode of communication, you're going to continue to have challenges. And we have to help our students understand that.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We are beyond the hour, but this conversation has been extremely fruitful and extremely enlightening. So I appreciate your presence. I appreciate your time, your candor. Your candid conversation has been extremely helpful. I want to talk a little bit about next steps before we dismiss. The information that you've given, I have, of course, been taking notes, and as I've done at the previous sessions as well, I know that we did not get to all of the areas that the 100 Days of Excellence pertains to. But if you go back to the email that was sent out notifying you of today's events, you will see the priority areas that we want to focus on within this 100 days and counting. I encourage you to put your brainstorm hats on and think about where this dialogue goes from here. I encourage you to reach out, of course, to Dr. Davis, myself. If you want to submit through the communications at LOC, completely your preference, or if you just want to have some sit-down time to talk about where we are going as an institution, I strongly encourage you to do that. The feedback does not the feedback does not go on deaf ears, and it is something that allows us to be able to put strategies in place in order to meet the goals that we not only have set, but also as we think about where we're progressing to, it allows us to be able to have some benchmarks in showing that we are moving in the direction that all constituencies of the institution value and appreciate. Because we know that when you value the institution that you are associated with, you speak to those spaces even beyond what your commitment to the institution is. When you are a student, you graduate and you tell another student about your experience here at LeMoyne-Owen College. When you enjoy the place that you work, you wear your LeMoyne-Owen College shirts and pride when you're in the grocery store. When you are at your places of faith, you tell people about the great things that are going on at the institution. We want you to be advocates for LeMoyne-Owen College, and we want to know that your voice is heard, and that while we can't do everything, we of course can at least put priority to areas that we can put some focus in and allow us to align our direction. So your presence is appreciated. Put those thinking caps on. We want to hear from you beyond this space, but we expect to see you on December the 11th at 2 o'clock, in which we will do a culmination of the sessions that we've had together, and you will get a presentation of not only the work that's been done, but also get a bit of a guideline as to where we're going based off the feedback that you have given. So for those reasons, I appreciate you in advance, because we are moving forward as an institution and we're excited about the journey ahead.
And in the event that anyone is interested, on the day that we're doing the presentation, December the 11th at 2 o'clock, that's my birthday, and I'll be accepting any and all gifts, just so you know. No, but in all seriousness, let me say this to you. In terms of, if you did not get a chance to share, by all means, listen, send me an email, stop by my office. I really do have an open door policy, and here is my commitment to you. I can't always promise that you will like or agree with my response, but what I will promise is I'll always hear you out and offer a response. Because I really do want to hear from you. And there are times, I don't mind telling you, when I've been set on a particular thing and people have come and met with me and have changed my mind about it. So even if you feel like, well, this is just how he feels, it's possible for me to be a bit short-sighted on a thing. And you may say the very thing I need to hear to think about it differently. So by all means, stop by, share your thoughts, make sure you're not in here. The only thing I ask is, don't bring Seth Davis with you. Don't tell him I told you.
Thank you all so much. And to our online community, thank you for joining us. We do want you to join us again December the 11th at 2 o'clock p.m. for the 100 Days and Counting presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.